do not fear, because I know that your trust has been in many things. Welcome to Outside of Eden, the podcast. I am Brianna, your host. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode. So we're going to get into the deeps and the depths of what God has brought to my heart. I have been having these dreams of me committing adultery. So when I would have these dreams of committing adultery, I was very confused because I'm like, okay, I'm not opening any doors. I'm not watching things that are, I shouldn't be watching. I'm not listening to things that I shouldn't be listening to. So I'm not understanding how I keep having dreams like this, right? And so I discovered that the dreams of me committing adultery was metaphorical for my relationship and my covenant with God, who is my first love. And so I had no idea. And it's funny because when I would have them previously, I didn't understand. And I was like asking God for understanding and clarity on the dreams. And then he started to incorporate my earthly father into the dream, right? So then it clicked. I was like, oh, so it would literally be like me committing adultery, and then my father would walk in after. And this last dream really stuck with me. I'm in the bed, and my dad has his back turned to me, and he like slightly turns his head, showing like that there's pain in his face, there is hurt being displayed in his face. And then these dreams of committing adultery really started to make sense to me. So committing your adultery in your dreams does not necessarily mean that you are opening doors to sexual dreams. I know sometimes people think that they're having sexual dreams because of something that they're doing in their waking life. The thing that is happening is because to commit adultery is basically to display like unfaithfulness. So adultery in sleep refers to unfaithfulness to God, maybe putting other things before God, or prioritizing worldly things over God's will or time with God, and basically being more involved in the earthly than you are in the spiritual, than you are in your time with God. And so, it was crazy to me because that dream showed me that wow, like God really is affected by us choosing things outside of him. God really is feeling the distance and when we are choosing things outside of his will. And sometimes it could even be God trying to show you that maybe you don't believe him to do something in your life. And so I literally have to pray and ask God to help my unbelief sometimes, because I do feel like I go through phases where I'm trying to believe that, but there's part of me that doesn't believe that God is going to do something, or maybe because I'm not seeing the results and the timing that I want to see the results. My unbelief starts to swarm in. And so one thing that we have to understand is that we were sent here. God strategically placed us here in this specific time of the century, and it specifically placed us in our specific family so that we could have certain qualities and a certain image that he wanted to be displayed specifically in you. And so when he sent us here, the funny thing that he reminded me of in my study was that before we even knew what earth was, we knew God, because the Bible tells us that before I formed you in your mother's womb, I knew you. So the first thing that we knew was God. We were with God. God lives in eternity, so he had already determined, I want my child in this time, in this part of the world, so that she may dwell with me, so that he may dwell with me, and so they may fulfill the purpose or the will that I have for their life. And so, we were sent here, as in we are on a assignment. And so, whenever we start to choose things outside of our first love, outside of God's will, is kind of when that committing of adultery thing kind of happens. We're going to go into Isaiah 54. I want you to stick with me, okay? I know this is a part of the video that is very hard for people to listen in. These words that are being spoken in Isaiah through the prophet Isaiah, these words are literally speaking to our hearts. It's literally God trying to get to us through our hearts. And so in Isaiah 54:5, it says, "For your maker is your husband. The Lord of hosts is his name, and your Redeemer is the Holy One of Israel. He is called the God of the whole earth." So the reason that it is essentially me committing adultery in my dreams is because God is my husband. God is my first love. And this even applies to men as well. Husband is more so of like a metaphor for provider, for protector, right? And so he takes that place in our lives. And so God was speaking to my heart as I begin to study in Isaiah 54:4, how he's speaking to us, and he says, "Do not fear." That's what he says to begin this part of the scripture. Do not fear, because I know that your trust has been in many things. And I know that it's scary to let go of the many things that keep you comfortable, or the many things that you feel provide for you. Because of our past, we've resulted to many things outside of God that we go to instead of him. For me, it could be sleep. For me, it could be, I'm being vulnerable with you guys right now, hot water. For some reason, I love heat. I don't know, but hot water really calms me. And I went through a season in my life where I was going to the water multiple times a day. By the grace of God, I am not going to the water that much. But this really speaks to not just that. Because of our past, we have resulted to many things. So God is speaking to our hearts here saying, do not fear. As in, like, if you put your trust in me, don't be afraid that I won't step in and be the husband that you need. Do not fear, for you will not be ashamed. Neither be disgraced, for you will not be put to shame. For you will forget the shame of your youth, and you will not remember the reproach of your widowhood anymore. I think for us, when we've experienced things in our past where maybe our mother or our father didn't provide certain things, widowhood is basically describing being deprived and vulnerable, being in places that were unstable, having loss. It could be literal loss or actual loss, the simple facts that you were without. And the feeling like something is missing. God is saying, you will not remember the reproach of your widowhood. So when we're in these places as a child where we're under guardianship, and maybe we didn't get affirmation, or we didn't get affection, or we didn't have security in the home. Anybody was able to come in and out. You weren't protected from certain people in your life. Respect was not given in the home. You weren't even respected as a person. There's these unmet emotional needs that maybe we didn't get as a child, but God is saying here, for you will forget the shame of your youth, and you will not remember the reproach of your widowhood anymore, the place in which you had no choice but to trust someone else. You had no choice but to be vulnerable and allow someone else to come in and take care of you. God is saying he is going to now step in. For your maker is your husband. The Lord of hosts is his name. For your maker is your provider. For your maker is your protector. For your maker will love you. For your maker will feed you. For your maker will fill you up so that you may be content. For your maker will provide your fulfillment. For your maker will be your husband. For the Lord has called you like a woman forsaken and grieved in her spirit. He knows the pain that it is that you felt. He knows the moments in which you felt forsaken, and even by God himself, the moments in which you felt like God wasn't there. You felt like God had left you. You felt like God had watched things just happen to you. For a mere moment, I have forsaken you, but with great mercies I will gather you. With a little wrath, I hide my face from you for a moment, but with everlasting kindness, I will have mercy on you, says the Lord, your Redeemer. And that is very, very powerful, because God is literally saying and taking accountability of the fact that I understand that you felt forsaken. I know for a moment I hid my face. I know for a moment I forsake you. But my mercy and my everlasting kindness is enough. He's saying that he will redeem your life. Do not fear putting your life in his hands. For we have trusted in many things. We trusted people to love us. We trusted people to be there for us. We trusted in things and people and places. And because of our past, sometimes can lead us to go into trusting things outside of God, especially when it was able to numb the pain, especially when it was able to distract you from the pain, especially when it was feeling good. But ultimately, it was interfering with your relationship with God. I want to tell you right now, he hides his face for only a moment. I want to tell you right now that nothing in this world can be greater than your commitment and your relationship with God. He is grieved and hurt when we are distant from him, and that sin of putting things before him and committing adultery in a spiritual sense, it literally tampers with our relationship with God. Because marriages, covenants are typically marked by faithfulness. They're marked by love. They're marked by commitment. And so I just want to leave you with this, because we're pretty much done. You were sent here, and in your heart, God has placed your purpose. Your heart won't be fulfilled until you do the very thing that God asked you to do. You won't be content. You won't be fulfilled. You won't have peace until you do the very thing that God has willed for you to do. He has sent you here. And so we have to ask ourselves, have we forsaken our first love? Have we forsaken the one who knew us before we encountered this earth, before we even knew what the earth was? Have we forsaken him? I'm going to try not to cry in this episode. I've been crying all day as I've been reading the Bible. So I love you guys. I will see you on the next episode of Outside of You.